let's get to it. Welcome to another episode. This is Growing Richer. I'm Terrell. Of course, on this channel, we talk about the things that help us have a richer lifestyle. And of course, that means we talk about money, but we talk about a lot more than that. We talk about our spiritual health, building good habits, growing in love, growing in leadership. We're essentially just trying to maximize our life and make sure that we have like something core deep down in us that allows what we want to do, what we want to accomplish, to basically come to pass. And so we're here to grow richer. It's been a while, but I'm glad to be back, glad to be shooting another video. Today we're going to be talking about growing in love and forgiveness. And I'm basing this on a Bible study that I led recently from the book of Philemon. And the book was particularly profound because it was written from the viewpoint of Paul, but he wasn't writing that book on his own behalf. He wasn't even writing it necessarily on Christ's behalf. He was writing it on the behalf of a slave that was owned by Philemon. And so what he was essentially saying to Philemon, his house, and the church was that they need to accept the slave back, even though in the past he wasn't, they used profitable, but I'm assuming that means he did something that as a servant, you shouldn't have done. So it could have been steal, it could have been the fact that he ran away. It could have been that he was given a task to do that he just didn't do. But essentially, he was not useful in the past, but now he's essentially, his life, he turned over and he's becoming a more productive member. And I think that's really important in our lives because I think a lot of us have people around us that may have, and we may be ourselves, people who are in our lifestyle or in our lifetime, we've done things that has caused people to have a certain perception of us. And so like now in life, we're trying to say, okay, I've learned better and now my aim is to do better. And so what I want to get across in this video is a couple of the main ways that I think as a people that we should engage with those people and be if we are those people. And so one is from the perspective of Paul. And so Paul is kind of an outward body or a third party with an interest in the actual relationship of Philemon and that servant. And so essentially what he's doing is advocating for the good things that he's seen and essentially trying to pick up, and I believe the guy's name is Onesimus or Onesimus. Onesimus. His name is Onesimus. And so Paul is essentially saying, I've actually interacted with him. I know I've heard negative things, like people are not speaking well of him, but from my experience, he's been a good person to deal with. And so he's essentially building him up in the community and saying that I think you should give him another chance. Onesimus, on the other hand, he's the person he's the culprit at this point. But he's the culprit who's essentially said, I know I was wrong and I'm willing to do what it takes to right my wrongs. And I'm also willing to accept any consequences that come my way by way of going back to his homeland and to Philemon in his house. And so essentially what he's doing is he's taking accountability and he's got faith that once he returns, whatever happens is going to work out in some way. And so he's essentially saying, yeah, I was wrong, but now I'm doing better. And I hope that you can accept my apology by way of Paul, and then just, allow me to be useful to you going forward. And then Philemon of of him. And so in the book, I don't really know what his decision was. They didn't necessarily say if he accepted the letter from Paul and took it and said, okay, I will forgive him, I will bring him in. But I have to assume that he probably did. And so from the viewpoint of Philemon, he was the person who was wronged. And he was the person who's had probably a long-standing relationship with Onesimus. And he is having to say, okay, this has been my experience with this person. Now, he has taken accountability, and he is willing to come back. And it's my responsibility to accept him with love, not necessarily, and I think the crazy thing is that Paul asked to accept him now that he's, become a member and become a part of the body as more than even what he was in the past. And so I think Philemon has the most difficult, but probably the most, after it's all said and done, rewarding task of them all. He's the one who's been wronged, and so now he's been tasked with forgiveness, moving forward, and then accepting that person as an equal at this point. And so I think all of us can learn from those three players in this text, because in all of our relationships, we can easily find ourselves in any of those categories where we're the person we're on the outside looking in and we hear about it, but instead of saying, he's my friend, so I'm gonna take his side, I've got a good relationship with him, so I'm just never gonna give Onesimus a chance. Instead of doing that, we say, no, I'm working towards peace and I'm working towards, productivity. My goal isn't to be on necessarily anyone's side. It's for us all to be a community and to be a productive community. So I'm going to say, I'm going to advocate for you both. I'm going to be gracious that Philemon has been very useful. And I'm going to, of course, acknowledge the negativity of Onesimus, but I'm not going to dwell on it. And then as Onesimus, I was wrong. Point blank period, I was wrong. And so now I move forward. And if there are consequences that come with it, I have to be the person who can accept it. And then as Philemon, I was wronged. So there's a difference. I was wrong, and then I was wronged. But, and I have to be willing to, of course, hold that person accountable, but at the same time, don't necessarily drag it for their lifetime, that person's lifetime. Maybe set some parameters in a way that person can enact with you, set boundaries maybe. But then going forward, eventually get to a point where we're not lording things over people's head. And so I hope you got something out of this. I'm glad to be back. I'm glad to have a video to post. I hope it was, again, something that you can use in your life and apply. Thank you so much for tuning in. Take care.